I want to introduce Joseph Alexander to you.
Thank you, David. My name is Joseph Alexander. I'm a Holocaust survivor from Poland, and I survived 12 camps. I lived in a small town in Poland, and I had a family. I had parents, I had 3 sisters and 2 brothers, and I'm the only survivor. We had a very good life in Poland. My father was in business. We were doing very good. Until 1939, when the Germans came into Poland, and they divided Poland in 2 parts. One half was annexed to the Third Reich, to Germany. The second part was Poland under German occupation. At the part that the German occupation was, life was going on almost normal. Our part, we were annexed to the Third Reich like we were in Germany. After a short time, they came into town, and in Europe, every town has a town square. Let's say, for instance, this is this is a town square. And in the town square, excuse me, the town square is where most of the business are. We lived the second house from this corner, and the third house was an uncle of mine. So they came in after my uncle, went around the square and told the people they have 10 minutes to get together their possessions, whatever, and get out in the middle of the square. And they took them away. Right away, a rumor started that they're going to come back 3 days later and take the rest of us. So my dad had 3 sisters living right under Warsaw, which it was Warsaw, Poland under German occupation. Thank you. So Dad said, we're not going to wait for them to come and give us 10 minutes. So he went out, he got a deep wagon. In Europe, we had deep wagons. We were about 8-10 feet deep. So he got a wagon, and we packed up most of the stuff from the store. And he put a few pieces of household goods, some bedding, and some pick-up pieces of furniture, because from our part to the other part of Poland, you had to go through a border. So put some household goods on top that we're moving. And my parents and one sister and a younger brother, and they left. I remained with my 2 older sisters, and we were packing up another wagon. And in the meantime, the Polish people were coming to town, and they were trying to buy whatever they can get. So I sold a bicycle and I bought of shirt material. One man, and he was going home. He had to pass the police station, and he got stopped because they thought maybe he was looting. So he stopped and asked him, where did you get this? He said, I bought it. So show me your receipt. He said, I don't have a receipt. Then go bring the man who sold it to you. So he comes to me and he says, you have to come with me to the police station. If not, they're going to come here. So I didn't want him to come here, there. So I went with him. And I came to the police station. He asked me, did you sell him? I said, yes. Why didn't you give him a receipt? I said, we in Poland, we didn't give receipts. So he took the boat material and smacked, okay, go. And I went back, and my sisters were waiting for me, and we took off. And we moved. So we went to a town about 25 kilometers before Warsaw, a city named Bologna. So we come back there, and life, like I said, it was going on almost like normal. But that was the time where they started, they built to build, excuse me. I don't know if you heard about the Warsaw Ghetto. So that was the time they were starting to build the walls around where the ghetto was going to be. So after they built the wall, so anybody who lives, everybody from between 50, 60 kilometers in the surrounding area of Warsaw had to move in to the ghetto. Moving into the ghetto, you know, that the area where everybody had to move in was a very small area, and we had 265,000 people moving in to a small place. So you can imagine the life what was going on there. It was terrible, miserable. And I lived in the ghetto for over 4 months. And back home, since we left, nothing changed. Everything remained the same. So my parents decided for an older sister and I had a younger brother and myself, we should go back home. So to go back home, you had to get out of the ghetto. So we paid off the guards at the gate to get out. So we got out and we decided I would take one street and my sister and brother take another street, and we walk to the outskirts of town, and then we'll meet there. I walked for about 2 blocks, and I had a Polish teenager comes over to me and says, "Give me some money, or I'm gonna report you." So I thought I gave him some money, and I got rid of him. And I kept walking. But he got on a streetcar, rode the streetcar for a couple, 2, 3 blocks and got off and comes over again. He said, "Give me some money again." So at this time I gave him some more money, but I took a different street and I lost him. Lost him and I walked to the outskirts of town and I met my sister and brother and we went home. So we got home. Like I say, everything was the same since we left. But it only lasted about 3 days. After being there 3 days, they said all the men from 16 to 60 report to the schoolhouse. So I reported to the schoolhouse and off I went to the camp. And so I kept going from camp to camp. The reason I was going from camp to camp, because I went to a camp where we would work very hard work. Very hard work, and the food you were getting was a piece of bread like this in the morning, and a cup of coffee, and you went to work. The work we were doing, I was laying cobblestones on the street to one camp. Then I was building sewers, we were building. I worked as a roofer. I worked at building an airport. We were laying railroad tracks. Then I worked, another camp I worked was building a dam. The dam, what we were building, you had the electric cars, little trains, like you cut down some hills and you put the dirt on those little buckets like, and one place they take it to another place and they dump it. And that was very hard work. And after we got back from work, you got a soup, which most of the time was from the peels of the potatoes or spinach. And from that food, you couldn't survive. people were dying every day, and there were a lot of sub camps around. We were in a city named Poznan, and there were a lot of sub camps around the city. So the same thing happened at all the other camps. People were dying every day. They were taking out people, and camp was getting small. So they combined 2, 3 camps into one. After a while, the same thing happened at this camp. So they closed this camp and was moved to another camp. That's what I was moving so many camps, from camps to camp, because I survived. Because, the only time you could survive, because you worked with civilians, if you could organize to get some little extra food, then you can survive. Otherwise, you couldn't survive. That's why people were dying. So I was moved from camps to camps. After being in 7 camps, train arrived, and we were going, which you never knew where you were going. But the destination we were supposed to go, it takes from there from about 5 to 6 hours at the most. But we got on a train, which wasn't a passenger train, a Kaduka train, where they put 40 to 50 people into one boxcar with a little window about 2 feet. They put us in, they closed the door, and we were riding around for about 3 days. No food, no water, no facilities. So we're riding around for 3 days. Then we arrived, and I'm sure you heard of Auschwitz. Mm. When we came to Auschwitz, that was in 1943 already, the train stopped at downtown. There's a little town named Auschwitz, so the Germans call it Auschwitz. And there were 6 kilometers to the camp. When we arrived in Auschwitz, the train stopped downtown, and we got off the train. 30–40% of the people were already dead on the train. We got off the train and lined up in rows of 5, and I met, I don't know if you heard of Dr. Joseph Mengele, called Doctor of Death. He selected people for human experiment or to send the people to the gas chamber. We got off, and he said there's 6 kilometers to the camp. So what he called, he select people to go to the left. The people on the left are going to be taken on trucks. And he told me to go to the left. If I would come from home, I wouldn't know the difference. But was already in 7 camps. Every time I had to go to work, every camp, I tried to get into a group with the biggest, strongest man. And when he told me to go to the left, and I look around, and there's old people, sick people, young kids, I said, that's not the kind of people I like to be with. But my luck was, it was after midnight. Would have been daytime, I don't think I could have done it. As he moved further down, I ran back to the other side. If I didn't run back to the other side, I wouldn't be here talking to you. Because the next morning, we found out the people on the left were taken on trucks, gone straight to the gas chamber. So then we walked to Auschwitz. There's Auschwitz and there's Birkenau. There's 2 Auschwitz, about 2 kilometers apart. So I walked to Auschwitz, and I got a shower. And I came out of the shower. I got a tattoo, a number on my arm here. See, after I got this number, that was my name. I had no name anymore. This was my name. After I got the tattoo, and I walked over to Birkenau. Birkenau, the life you can imagine. I watched so people run into the electric fence. The fence was electric, to the fence to get electrocuted. I saw people being beaten to death. So the life was very bad. And in Auschwitz, the camp was they were taking people out, and they didn't bring any people in. So I was trying to get out of there. So a lot of times they said they need people to work. And then I had Dr. Mengele, so 2 more times in Birkenau. They said the people to work, but we were hiding, friends of myself. We didn't trust them, so we were hiding, didn't report. But then it was getting a time where the camp was getting very low, so we tried to get out. So they come and they said one time, they need some tailors. My father, my grandfather, we were all tailors. So I report, and they come right in front of me. They said, you go back. We don't need anymore. We have enough. So I'm still back there. And that was already in 1943. 1943, that was the Warsaw Ghetto Uprising. And after the Warsaw Ghetto Uprising, actually we didn't know of it, but they said they need a big transport and they don't want to take any people from Poland. Only from Hungary, Greece, Italy, but on the end, they were short about 300 people. They said, now we take some people from Poland. So I report, and the same thing, you get on the train and riding around for 3 days again. And we arrived. I'm going back to Warsaw. That's my second time going back to the Warsaw Ghetto. This time we're going back. We come to the Warsaw Ghetto. There was no ghetto, there was no camp, no buildings. All the buildings were burned out. The only thing you had was the remaining walls. And we supposed to take those walls down brick by brick. We were taking down, cleaning up the bricks and put them up in stacks of about 8 to 10 feet high. And they had Polish people coming in with a horse and wagon, and they took those bricks to the railroad station, and they were sending them back to Germany. But this was a camp. There was a camp. When we arrived, there was no camp. They gave us some prefabs. We had to put together our own barracks. And you didn't have any facilities, no showers. A shirt I was wearing, there was no shirt anymore, just shreds. They were eaten up from lice. And after a short time, we built the showers. So on Sunday, you went to get a shower and you get some fresh clothes. In the meantime, the typhus broke out. So people were getting the typhus. They went to the hospital. Nobody ever came out. That was the end. I got the typhus is where you get high temperature, high fever. I got it, but I was lucky I had a couple, we call it a couple, which is a foreman. He was a German man, a middle-aged man. He didn't care if you worked or not. And he was very good. So when I got the temperature I didn't go to the hospital. I was sitting behind the bricks, the stacks of bricks, for about 3 days to get over the temperature. And that was the time after I got over this temperature. A few days after that, we had the Polish underground came and they attacked the camp. They were trying to free our camp. They were fighting all night. They were unsuccessful. So the next morning, they closed the camp. They took us out. To get out of town, we had to jog. To get out of the city, they were afraid we're going to get attacked in the city. So we jogged to get out of town, and we wind up, it was about late in the afternoon, around dusk, we wind up at a big field where the farmer grazed their cows. And that field, the ground in that field is very moist. So we wind up in that field. So whatever means you had, a knife, a spoon, anything, you could dig up some mud. So he took the mud and took the bottom of the shirt and was squeezing the mud to get a little water. So we got a little water, and the next morning we're walking again. Come to the next city, there was a river. So they let us go to the river to get some water. So we got some water, but two of our people went a little further into the river. I thought maybe they want to get out on the other side of the river. So they got shot, they got killed in the river. And we got some water to start walking again. So we walked until the next morning. We come to a town, next town, which was the same river. But at that time they said, you can only go 100 people at a time to get to the river to get some water. So we went to the river, we got some water, and then we start walking. And that day was very heavy rain, and we walked soaking wet until late in the afternoon. We arrived at the railroad station. Come to the railroad station, stayed overnight, and the next morning the same train arrived. And at that time, we got on the train, the same thing. And we were riding around for this time about 3.5 days. And we were going to Germany. Going to Germany to a camp named Dachau. Dachau was the first camp Hitler built in 1933 for political prisoners. Then he turned it into a concentration camp. So we come to Dachau and was there about 2 weeks doing nothing because they were building around Dachau 12 camps. They all went from by numbers, from 1 to 12. After being in Dachau about 2 or 3 weeks, I was sent out to camp number 1, and we were working for farmers digging potatoes. That lasted about 3 weeks. We were finished. Then I was sent to another camp, to a city named Longspur am Lech, about 50 kilometers from Dachau, or Munich. And that was camp number 7. That was a little small camp where only about 150 people. And that was the only camp I was where women were in the same camp, except they were closed up by barbed wire, 1/4 of the camp. But we went to work together. So coming to camp number 7, there was a group of us, a small group where we were already over 4 years in the camp. So we had the privilege of getting the better jobs in the camp. So my friends of mine worked the kitchen, some they were police and so forth, and others. And I got a group of 10,
Excuse me.
5 girls,
Excuse me, sir. I'm
5
just gonna-
boys.
The microphone.
Mm.
Sorry. Thank you.
5 boys and 5 girls. And we were working right outside of the camp for the guards, for the German guards in the kitchen for the German guards. And I had 2 men in charge of the camp, 2 German men, but they weren't the regular army. They were something like, I don't know, National Guard. They were the OD uniform with the swastika armband. And they were very good. So I worked there, and every day I was going back to the camp. I took some food for my friends, and then we had food left over. I took, we had the big milk cans. I put it in the milk can. And the next morning, people were going to work. I stopped them and I gave them some food. A couple of times, the officer in charge of the guard complained to my people that I'm holding people up to go to work. So he said, don't worry about it. They said, do what you're doing. So it did lasted for a long time until April 28, 1945. All the sub-camps had to go back to Dachau. So I went back to Dachau, stayed overnight, and the next morning we're going what they called a death march. They're supposed to take us in Germany. There's a ski resort in the mountain called Garmisch. And that's supposed to take us in and they kill us there in the mountain. But we knew, we were walking about 2 days, we knew that we're not gonna be walked too much because we could hear the fight. The American troops were not far behind us. So I walked for 2 days and we come to a little bridge and the bridge was blown up. The bridge was blowing up, so one half of our group was on one side and the other half on the other side of the bridge. I was on the side. We were in a village, and there was a little forest in the village. So they took us into that forest, and they asked for volunteers to take the sick people into the village and put them in to the farmers, to the barn, and told the volunteers to come back. On the way back, there was a friend of mine. So they found a dead horse in the snow. So they cut off some pieces from the horse. And my friend comes back and gives me a piece of meat. And he said, do something. So I made a fire and there was barbecue. That was the best meal we had in a long time. So during the night, the guards disappeared. We didn't even know until next morning. The German police came and they took us into that village and they disappeared. So when they disappeared, we were just walking around. It was around the morning, between 8 and 9 o'clock. We were just walking around the village until around between 12 and 1 o'clock. I saw the first American tank moved in. We were liberated. So when we were liberated, that's the only tank I saw, the only thing. Because the troops came right behind him and they blocked off the village. I didn't want anybody to get out. But we were a group of us, we were over 5 years in the camp already. We didn't want to get closed in, blocked in again. So we got through and started to walk and see where the next town is. So we walked for about maybe a kilometer or 2, and there was a German bakery. So we got into the bakery and everybody got a bread. You had a bread, you were okay. and to walk to see where the town is. So a short distance, we were from town, we come into town, and we see 3 American soldiers we saw. But they were Czechoslovakian descent, but they were so drunk they couldn't walk. They had to hold on to each other. But again, the clothes we were wearing, I think they knew this escort. So, are you Polish? Said yes. So come on. So they took us to a bunker. An underground bunker was a warehouse. You couldn't see the end of it. They took us to the warehouse. First thing we changed, put on fresh clothes. Everybody took a backpack and put some food in. And there was a big chain, a big row of bicycles chained up. So they broke the chain, and everybody got a bicycle. And now we have to find a place to stay. So the troops, when the American troops came into the village, they brought the rest out of the people into the same town. And there was a German Air Force base. And they put him in and made a displaced person camp, DP camp. So, but we got the bicycles and then had to find a place to stay. Trying to get out of to the street, you couldn't get out because 6 o'clock was curfew. So we hopped over about 3 or 4 fences and we came to a German inn. And there was taken over by the American troops, but in the back of the inn there was a house, an empty house, so we took over the house. So we stayed in the house there for about 10 days. After 10 days, they said, anybody who lives outside the camp has to move into the camp. So we moved into the camp and we were taken back to Munich, which Munich is the capital of Bavaria. Took us back to Munich to a DP camp, but if you wanted, you could live at the camp or you can go any place you wanted, you were free. So we stayed there for a few days, and some group, few of us, decided we're gonna go back where we were at the last camp, where camp number 7 was, Longspur. We're gonna go back there. So we went back to Longspur, and Longspur, there was a DP camp in Longspur. It was one of the biggest in Germany. We went, registered the camp, they gave us a room. So we stayed in the room overnight. In the next morning, I moved out 7 kilometers from the city to a farm, and I lived in a farmhouse. So I lived in the farmhouse for about 5 or 6 weeks, and I decided to go back to Poland to find out if anybody, my family, survived. Because I left my family in the Warsaw Ghetto. I left my parents, 2 sisters and 1 brother. And the 1 brother and my sister came out of the ghetto from me, went home. They were taken, after I went to the camps, they were taken to another ghetto called Lodz. I got 1 letter from my sister when I was in the camp that they took my brother. He was 12 years old. They took him, and at that time, they didn't have the crematoriums yet, so they were gassing people on trucks. They were running trucks on wood and put the fumes inside the trucks. And he was taken to a camp named Chelmno. That's the only thing I know what happened to him, but the rest of the family, I don't know what happened to them. So I went back to Poland to find out if anybody survived. So I come to a house, and there were survivors living in my house on the 2nd floor. On the 1st floor were Polish people living. And the Polish people said, if you came back to stay, they'll move out. And the survivors told me nobody from my immediate family, except one cousin of mine survived. We grew up together, went to school together, and he was in a different town. In Poland was very bad at that time for survivors who came back. The Polish people were killing survivors because the Jews came back to take back the properties. So they didn't want to give up the properties. In one town, they killed 42 people, 42 survivors in a town named Helsinki. So I said, I'm going to get my cousin who lived in a different town, and we're going back to Germany. So I'm going there. On the way, I got on the train, and I was on the train. I met a woman survivor, which she lived in the same town where my cousin was. So I told her I'm going to get my cousin, and I'm going back to Germany. So she begged me, please wait, because I'll show you later. Because I had some papers coming from Germany. And she says, you wait, because her husband was a cap maker. She had a little shop. So they want to liquidate, they want to go with me back to Germany. So I waited 2 weeks, and going back to Germany, you had to go through Czechoslovakia. Czechoslovakia were occupied by the Russians at that time. So to go through Czechoslovakia, said you have to have a visa. So they told me at the border between Poland and Czechoslovakia, you have to go to Krakow. There's a Czechoslovakian consulate there. You can get a visa there. So we went out, we got some pictures, and I went to Krakow and I got a visa. We got a visa, and then we going through Czechoslovakia to get to Germany. We come to the border, the German border. A Russian officer comes on the train to check papers, and I showed him that visa. He said, you have to go back to Prague, which is the capital of Czechoslovakia, to get a stamp. That was little after 2 months after the war. There was no government in Prague. So I said, my friends said, what, let's try to go through Austria. So I got on the train to get to the Austrian border. They took everybody off the train, took away all the papers, and they put us up for about 3 days. And then, because they were getting together, a group of representatives from all the European countries, and they were sending you back to the country of birth. So the woman, according to the paper, what they had was that she was my sister, and her husband and my cousin, they were my brothers, because I was the only one who had some papers. So she goes in, and we asked her where, so this, she told Poland again. So you had to sign a paper and put it on the list to go to Poland. Then I went in, and he asked me, where are you born? I said, Germany. What language do you speak? I said, German. I picked up a few words from the other countries in the camp. And where in Germany? I said, Cologne, Germany. So and I had wanted that paper, that certificate I had to go through Czechoslovakia, had a stamp on it from the Polish Red Cross. So I said to him, see, look, there's a stamp from the Polish Red Cross that I'm going home. So he showed it to the Polish representative. He said, yes, that's right. So the sister was here and signed this paper here. She said she didn't understand. She speaks German. She didn't understand what you were asking her. So then he took that piece of paper, crumpled it up, and threw it away. And so I said to him, well, my brothers don't have to come in. And they put us on the list to go to Germany. So we were 78 people, so we were 22 who were going to Germany. The rest, I don't know what happened to them. So the next morning, put on the Russian guard took us, we were right by the Austrian border, took us to the border, to hand us over to the Austrian border guard so we can get to Vienna. So got on a train, we come to Vienna. Vienna was divided in 4 parts. You had American, British, Russian, and French. To get to Germany, you had to get to the American side. So to get the American side, you had to get on a train again and go back to a city named Salzburg. And then you go back there and cross over the river and to get to the American side. And we came to the American side, rented a truck, and we went back to Germany. So I went back to Germany. So I still lived in Germany for 4 years after I was liberated. Because you didn't have a passport, you didn't any place to go until some country opened up and wanted to register to get. So a short time after that, a Canadian said, you can go to Canada. So we went to register to go to Canada, then you have to wait until they call you. Took a while, didn't hear anything. Then a friend of mine lived in the next village. He said, Joe, you can go to Munich now. You can register to go to America. So we went to Munich and we registered, and it didn't take long, just very short time. They said you go through the American doctor and then the FBI to check you out. And a short time after this, you got a notice to go to get the boat, the Bremenhaven, in Germany, to get the boat to get to America. So in 1949, May of 49, I arrived in New York. And to come to America, you had to have a sponsor. Either you had some relatives who can sponsor you, or to a organization. So I was sponsored by a Jewish organization, and the cousin of mine who survived, he had an uncle here in Santa Monica. So he was his sponsor. So I came in May, he came in October. So I came here, and my contract was to Harrisburg, Pennsylvania. Came to Harrisburg, and I was in Harrisburg for about 6 months. And when my cousin came here to Santa Monica, he told his uncle that I'm in Pennsylvania, and we were the only 2 survivors from both of our families. So the uncle called me a few times, I should come here so we can be together again. So in January 1950, I came to California. And so here I am. So now, do you people have any questions for me?
And actually, if I could make a suggestion, first of all, to our guest speaker, to David, so you know, sometimes students might be getting up and leaving. It's not because they want to, it's because some students have to get to class. But for the most part, we want to really keep this open in terms of dialogue. David, maybe you can help to take questions from students as they have them, but we want to open it up to questions.
Yes.
Yeah.
Weren't you afraid about going back to Germany after the war? Was it a safer place to be because it was occupied at the time? Or because you could speak German? I mean, I can imagine that you might not know where you would be safe after the
No,
war.
that was the safest place at the time to be. Because when we were there, you know, the Germans, actually, I could say, they were like afraid of us. And besides, anybody, Germans you talked to at the time, nobody belonged to the Nazi party. So that's why it was safe there. So we lived for 4 years there and did very good in Germany at the time.
Thank you.
But I wasn't planning to stay there.
Were you
Yes.
working as a tailor?
Yeah. Go ahead.
Recently, I read a book about the trial of Adolf Eichmann. I would like to know your feeling about the trial and what the people, how they reacted toward this trial. Alfred Eichmann. Eichmann.
Yeah. Well, the actors, actually, we didn't have any access to the Eichmann. We didn't know about it. He was the what they call it, the organizer, whatever. He is once they got together for the what you call the
Final solution.
final solution. I couldn't think of the word.
Yeah.
So, but I never had any contact with Eichmann. And, same
Your
thing.
your feeling toward him, because he said that I'm happy that I killed 5 million Jews. I wish I could kill 50 million. And that's what
Well,
he said.
that's what he said later. That was already later on. But yeah. So,
Yeah.
yes.
I'm curious, the night when you ran to the right, when they tried to have you go to the left,
Yeah.
were you alone? Did anybody follow you? Did anybody see you in the right to come help? Or it
No.
was just kind of,
No, but I said because it was after midnight. I don't know if anybody saw me. I don't know. I just went back and that was it.
I mean, even other
Yeah.
Jewish people were on the
No,
right.
I don't know. I didn't see anybody else. No, I just ran back. It was all rows of fire. I just ran back and I saw the guy back up. One of the guys to back up.
What did you do when you got here? What profession did you get into?
Well, my young family were tailors. We were tailors. So I worked as a tailor in Pennsylvania for 6 months. Then I came to Los Angeles. And in came to Los Angeles. I worked a few weeks here in Los Angeles as a tailor. Came here for about 2 weeks. I worked in a shop, piecework, and I was making $19 a week. They said that the shop you work for 2 weeks. After the 2 weeks, you join the union, and you can get $30 a week. So after 2 weeks, I joined the union on Friday after work. Come back Monday morning, come back to the shop, and the foreman said, "You're fired." He didn't want to pay $30. So my uncle had a store. The uncle had a store in the Riverside, military store. So I said, "You're crazy. Why don't you go back there?" And he had goods there, materials and everything. He said, "Go back to Riverside. You can make some shirts, some pants, and you put it in the store there, and you'll be your own boss." So I did for a while, and that was 1950 when the National Guard here was mobilized when the Korean War started. So in Victorville, there was a big Air Force base, World War II. After the World War II, they closed the base. Now the Korean War started, so they reopened the base. And in San Bernardino, there was a man who used to have the base there before, the cleaning cleaning store and tailor shop. But this time, he didn't want the tailor shop, just wanted the cleaning. Somehow we found out that my cousin and I were in the riverside there. So he came to the manager comes to me and said, Joe, we can go to Victorville and to the base and take the shop there, get a contract, and we'll be partners. So I said, good. So I went and I opened the shop in Victorville. And I got my cousin out there too. And I was in Victorville for 7 years. And then I said, I used to come on the weekend to Los Angeles. So 7 years in Victorville, said, I got enough of the desert. Now I'm going to Los Angeles. I'm going to open a store in Los Angeles. So I got a partner, and we opened a store on Melrose Avenue, right next block from Paramount Studio. And it was called the Los Angeles Uniform Exchange. And we were there for 37 years. And most of the military movies you saw, until 1994, the uniforms came from us, movies or TV.
Yeah,
Yes.
right there.
Pictures to show us.
What?
Oh, picture. Oh, it just showed the document.
Documents, yes. I'm going to show you some documents
Thank
here.
you. Almost forgot.
This is the one with liberation from Dachau. Here is one from Auschwitz. And here is one from Munich. And on this one here, you can see, if you can see, it tells you I was in the camps from 1939 to May 2nd, 45. And some of the camps, we wore, those are the uniforms we were wearing. And here's a picture.
Famous picture.
It shows you how we lived. One section were for 3 people.
And tell who's
Did
who's in there.
Yeah. Did you read anything about Elie Wiesel? That's him right here on the second row, on the end. This is a picture. This man here, name was Joe Buddha. He is the one who brought the piece of horse meat. And the one on the end, that was my cousin.
Is that you in the middle?
Yeah. So, do you have any more questions?
Yeah.
Yeah.
When you found the train to escape, were you the only survivor on that train? Or did you meet other people who found that train which helped you guys get away and escape?
No, I don't get it.
He didn't
I
escape.
didn't escape. I didn't escape from the train.
No.
No, I'm saying like escaping from like the Holocaust, like the killings and stuff.
Oh,
You mean-
did you
you
know
mean
other
as-
survivors?
Other survivors? Yes, I knew lots of survivors. Matter of fact, I have a couple. I show you a little picture here. There's a couple. They met in the camp. And we were friends for 73 years. They just passed away about a year and a half ago. And they passed about, he passed away on Monday and she passed away on Thursday of the same week. But we were friends for 73 years. Yes.
Someone before asked you about, weren't you afraid to go to Germany after you were liberated, to end up there? And you said no, because there were not Nazis there, and I was wondering whether you were, can you explain what you mean? Were there actually no Nazis in that city, or they were afraid to show themselves?
They said they were not.
They said they were not, and they were afraid to.
Not, yeah,
Okay.
that's right. Yeah, go ahead.
How many languages do you know how to speak? Because you said you learned a lot of languages at your time at the camp.
How many languages can you speak? Or?
About 4.
Or
I know since you have the tattoo of the number, but did they also, what else did they do? Did they shave your head as well, or did they do anything?
Of course.
They did.
You know, interesting thing, what you showed me, what you just showed me now, the number here. I know you probably saw some
I've seen.
people here, but mine is not here.
No. You're
Mine-
here.
There is a difference.
There's some people with this here,
Yeah.
which very small numbers, they usually have a A or a B in front of it. Those are the people who came to Auschwitz in 1944. In 1944, I was running about 10 camps already.
What number is it?
142584.
Once again, please.
142584.
Don't you want to write a book about your experiences?
No, I never did. But there is an article, if you go on the internet here. I had a big article, and there's a Jewish journal who comes out here in Los Angeles every Friday, every Thursday or Friday, a weekly paper, and they had a big article with the 12 camps I was, all listed, got my whole history on it.
How can we find it?
Can you find
Jewish
it?
journal. You just Google his
Jewish journal.
Jewish journal,
Google his name.
and put my name on, Joseph Alexander. And you get the whole thing.
Thank you.
Yes.
Wait, right.
In recent news, Poland is in recent news now.
Can you be louder?
I'm trying, I have a cold, sorry.
Yeah.
Poland is in recent news now
Yes.
because they're being approached to give property back to those who
I know.
suffered.
I know, did you see the article yesterday, the Los Angeles Times?
Yes, and all the
that
anti-Semitism
was-
uprising again.
Yes.
What,
yeah.
what do you think? I mean, what is going on, do you
It's
suppose?
ridiculous, because you know why? Because according to this article in the Los Angeles Times yesterday, it says, because say they gonna pay the Jewish survivors because they didn't get paid for their properties from Germany.
Mm.
And they said if they have to pay back all the properties for the Jewish survivors, they will go broke. That's what the article says.
Right, that's right.
Yeah, there was a big demonstration this weekend in Warsaw.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anti-Semitism.
When you met Dr. Mengele, did you already know who he was and the experiments that he was conducting, or?
Yes, I did know it.
So
Because
they
I knew from the experiment he was doing on humans.
have you ever felt guilty about surviving?
Hmm?
Have you ever felt guilty for surviving?
Did you ever feel guilty that you survived?
Did I feel guilty I survived?
Like those people you know, you see them die, and like do you feel guilty that you survive and they die?
No, I didn't feel guilty. I don't feel guilty because I'm the only survivor, at least for my family. I lost my whole family, and I am the only survivor. So, no, I didn't feel guilty. But I think about them all day, every day. Yes.
So I want to know, what were the emotions that you were feeling at the moment that everything happened? Like resentment, like why is this happening? Can you describe the emotions of as it was happening and now as you look back, as the way you think about like why was this happening? What were their thoughts of? Like how could they do that to a human being? How are they treat us like this? Like, can you describe that?
Well, I guess I don't think we'll ever know why, what the emotion. Well, I think what happened was Germany was in bad shape at the time. And when Hitler came in, is the only thing I think what made him powerful. So he figured you take away everything from the Jews and give it to the Germans. So the population, the people went with him. I think that's the only thing I can say.
So like again, can you describe your personal emotions as everything was going through? The thoughts that you had, like day by day.
Yeah,
Survive,
Survive, exactly.
that's right.
survive, day by day.
Day by day, just survive.
Like, can I ask one more? Did you have to have emotional attachment to survive? So did you like, because you got used to everything happening, did you have to eventually like detach yourself from all the death and everything else to survive, or did you like, were you still within your emotions?
I think you need to say how old you were because he was a teenager, so I don't think you quite get it.
Yeah, that's a no. I was just thinking for me to survive from day to day. I used to ask me how a lot of kids in the schools ask me, did you ever think of giving up? What made you going on? I said, I never lost hope. I always felt that today may be a bad day, but tomorrow will be a better day. But don't lose hope. Yeah.
Did you go on to have your own family?
Yes, I had a family. I have a son and a daughter. Let me tell you also, I was in 2015. I was invited by the German government to come back to celebrate 70 years the liberation of Dachau. So we went back and they paid for all the expenses, everything, and we were there, my girlfriend and myself, and we had a very good time. They were treated, you can't even imagine. I'll show you something. Do you know who the Chancellor of Germany is now?
Angela Merkel.
I spoke to her in German, in Dachau.
Good.
And I get New Year's card from Dachau now. And I go, happy, yeah, that's what it says. Happy New Year. Yeah. I got 3 of them.
How do you feel now?
I feel good.
Did you have a question?
Yeah, I do. I was just wondering, did you ever feel the need to seek out any therapy to help you cope with the trauma that you went through?
To cope with the trauma. How can I help? How can I? I know people ask me the same question. They, did you ever think to forgive the people? Things. Or few. I don't carry any grudges. But I can never forget. You know? I don't forget what happened. But that's how life goes on.
Right here.
Being that it was Mother's Day yesterday, I was wondering what's something sweet or that you loved about your mother when you guys were together as a family when you were young.
Well, when I was young in Poland, we didn't have any Mother's Day.
But you had a mother. Do you
We had a
have
mother, but we didn't celebrate. I don't know, even know here, before the war, I don't know if you celebrate Mother's Day here either. I don't know. Well, we didn't. But, you know, when it comes Mother's Day, you think about it. Yeah.
Yeah, I have a question. It's related to something that I heard from a Holocaust speaker on, I'm sure you're familiar with the March of the Living. You know about this
Yeah.
organ. My son just did that. He's on his way home now. And as I was listening to a speaker from, who survived the Holocaust, who spoke at that ceremony, he talked about his perspective on, somebody asked him about Poland because they were in Poland. Do you blame the Poles? Are the Poles guilty? And he took the perspective, no, I don't. He says the only people I blame are, Hitler and Germany. What is your perspective on that, having been in Poland? Do you find that the Polish people played a part in guilt or responsibility for what happened in the camps?
If you talk to them, they don't feel responsibility.
Well, I know they don't. But
They
how
don't
do you
feel. But but we know better.
Okay.
Because if the Polish people would be like some of the Scandinavian countries, where other countries where they saved a lot of Jews, hundreds of thousands of Jews could have been saved in Poland, because Poland had 3.2 million Jews, the biggest Jewish community in the world before the war. And if Polish people would help, hundreds of them could have survived. But a lot of them collaborated with the Germans. They just used to go and show, here, there's a Jew living here. So.
So now that we're in the 21st century, there's a lot of companies like making movies or documentaries about like the Holocaust or like the war, or like Hitler and like that. Do you ever feel the need or like interest into going to look into those documentaries and see how true or real they depict those events where you were a part of, or do you not feel like you want to see how things were because you don't want to remember, maybe relive those moments that you once lived?
No, I would like to see it. Yes, I would like to see how it was before and how it is now. Yeah.
Is it hard to speak to us now that emotions come up that you just assume not be reminded of? I mean, I
No.
assume you're sacrificing a lot by speaking to us.
No, a matter of fact, I would like to speak and let people know there's a lot of people, because, especially now, there's a lot of Holocaust deniers,
Yes.
and don't anybody believe what they say, because to me, I call them stupid. That's what I call them. Because the evidence is still in existence. First off, you're speaking to somebody who survived it. Second is, you go to all the camps before, Auschwitz, Dachau, Majdanek, Treblinka. The ovens are still in existence. You had thousands of people daily going to these camps, people from all over the world. So how can they say that the Holocaust never happened? So that's why I call them stupid. Yes.
We have the privilege of teaching a very large Armenian demographic here at Glendale College, and I have the privilege of having two friends growing up who were Armenian and had grandparents or great-grandparents who were killed in the Armenian genocide. You're talking about denial as a Jew. I'm with you 100%. What can we do to help the Armenian community really raise awareness about the atrocities committed against them, as well as the dispossession? Armenians were scattered all over the Middle East, North America, Europe, as a result of what happened to them. What can we do there?
Well, first of all, at least now, it's like Israel has their own country. The same thing, Armenia, they have their own country now. So the only thing they can do is help their own country to survive. And there's nothing, I don't know if anything else we can do. You know?
Yeah, actually, I just wanted to say something that, you know, Hitler said nobody will remember the Armenian genocide.
Yes.
And he said that on the verge of the Nazi invasion of Poland. So that's been used, you know, that was used by Hitler. So there are a number of connections between the Holocaust and the Armenian genocide. Another thing is German generals helped direct the Turkish army in the genocide.
That's
And
right.
there's a lot, you know, they became some of the top Nazis. Yeah.
Amanda, what are your thoughts, comments on, we talk about the 21st century and the time period that we live in today, with what I would call the advent of new, it's not really new anti-Semitism, but anti-Semitism's resurgence.
Yeah.
Shootings in Galway, Pittsburgh. And it's not just against the Jewish community, but you know, in specific, I'm talking about that because we have sort of this. I don't want to call it new. It's not new, but the resurgence of racism and anti-Semitism and all of it sort of combined. And how do you connect that, let's say, to you know, what's going on here in the United States and abroad as well?
Well, we just have to fight anti-Semitism, with whichever means we have, to try to stop it. That's the only thing we can do. Just try to talk to the people, let the people know what's going on, and try to stop it. That's why, for instance, like there's a lot of people here who never heard about the Holocaust. You know? Or the people never met anybody who survived the Holocaust. So that's what we have to do, is to spread the word as much as we can. That's why I speak to a lot of people, a lot of schools, and also the museum. We have a museum, which is what you see right here, you may see, it's called Lamot.
The LA Museum of the
It's
Holocaust.
another museum of the Holocaust. It's built by Holocaust survivors, and it's open 7 days a week. And there's no charge.
It's not the Museum of Tolerance.
No, that's a different one.
This one is free.
This one free, and it's strictly about the Holocaust.
What was it called again?
Where is it?
The Los
Los
Angeles LA Museum of the
yeah,
Holocaust.
Lamot.
LAMOTH. And you can Google it to get, I don't know the exact address, but it's.
It's a grove.
a
It's
grove.
about 100 something. It's back, you know, if you know where the grove is.
Yeah.
It's right in back of the grove. And from the outside, actually, you can't see it because it's built on the ground. But it's right in back of the grove.
And you can see an exhibit of Joseph there, and the actual documents.
The original,
that he
these are
showed,
copies.
The original documents.
There's a glass case there, and it's got the original documents.
But in following what you just asked, I think you might have heard of this. First, they came for the communists, and I didn't speak out because I wasn't a communist. Then they came for the socialists, and I didn't speak out because I wasn't a socialist. Then they came for the trade unionists, and I didn't speak out because I wasn't a trade unionist. Then they came for the Jews, and I didn't speak out because I wasn't a Jew. Then they came for the Catholics, and I didn't speak out because I wasn't a Catholic. Then they came for me, and there was no one left to speak for me.
So are you still with Reva Sherman? Is she still taking good care of you?
She's right there.
The article I read in the Jewish Journal said longtime girlfriend.
Yeah.
One of the things you said is that your survival was dependent on lots of luck and staying out of trouble. I'm imagining Reva's the reason you stay out of trouble. And that's why you're still with us. It's nice to meet you in person. Helen and David are very fortunate to have you as their father.
Well, he's not my father.
No.
Different
David.
But he could be. Oh, the other David.
The other David, yeah.
Yeah.
The nice David.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Congratulations on 2 lovely children and a grandson.
Thank you.
And thank you for still being here to tell us about it.
Thank you. Yes.
Yeah, I have a follow-up question on the last person over here, talking about the rise of anti-Semitism. So here's what I wonder, and I wonder what your perspective is. With things kind of coming more to the surface, and we're seeing more acts of anti-Semitism, the question is how alarmed should we be? I mean, there's some people in the Jewish community who say, you know, these are the kind of signs we saw in Germany, you know, that started with acts against groups, you know, religious places, homes, businesses. How alarmed do you think we should be at this point?
Well, we
US
should
or
be, well, we should
France,
always
Germany?
be aware of anything you see, anything out of the ordinary. Don't be ashamed or don't be afraid to report. Anything you see, it may be something, it may be nothing, but it doesn't look right, report to the authorities.
Well, but the authorities know what's going on, but you don't
Yeah,
really see anything.
yeah, but they know, but they don't know. Sometimes it may be nothing, but sometimes it could be something.
It's something that we tell the students, at least, because I always follow up Holocaust speakers, is that you cannot ignore hate. You cannot walk by and pretend it doesn't exist. If you don't speak up, if you don't do something about it and become active and do something about it, it's not going to go away. And it exists, you know, in this country, exists in other countries, but in this country, you know, part of your responsibility of living in this country is getting rid of the hate. That's part of your responsibility too. Every human being in this country who believes in the life of people and believes in justice, believes in equality, believes that we are all brothers and sisters. Under the skin, we bleed the same red blood. That you need to say something, you need to do something. It's not going to go away until the citizens of this country, the people of this country, do something about it.
And not just for the Jews, anybody, any religion, any creed, anybody, anything out of the ordinary. Don't ignore it.
Thank you so much.